Good afternoon, world. It is moments past noon here in Waxahachie, Texas. Absolutely a Chamber of Commerce day. Today is Tuesday, September 16th, our 91st episode of Grit and Good News. And as always, we're broadcasting live from our palatial studio here in downtown Waxahachie in the shadows of the historic Ellis County Courthouse. And at the board, we have our man Sam, who was capably sitting in this seat last week. And to my right, we have Scott Brooks.
Thank you, bud.
Go, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Great and Good News. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday from noon to 1 o'clock Texas time, which is Central Standard Time. We talk about a variety of things. And although, given what happened last week, we're kind of focused in now on not only the event of last week, but we're going to be talking about some of the important residual things that are going on in America as a result of the murder of Charlie Kirk. You know, I saw a discussion the other day that people were, matter of fact, there's a pastor in Fort Worth, I think it's Fort Worth, Pastor Jasmine Crockett's pastor, matter of fact, who preached last Sunday. He's one of these people that had negative things to say about Charlie Kirk, but said this is not an assassination. And any comparison between this Charlie Kirk assassination and the assassination of Martin Luther King is a joke, that there is no comparison, when in fact I say there's a direct comparison. I don't know that you can get any more closer to two things happening, terrible things happening that are almost exactly alike.
Both champions of
Yeah,
their time,
that's right.
both with a strong Christian undercurrent.
Right. Yeah. And espousing what's good, that God and the greater good for America. Before we get to all this, though, because I can tell we're ready to go. Sammy, what number was this?
91. Did I not
91.
say that? I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. 91. I can't
What
think
are we
of
doing
any.
here? What are we doing here?
We're doing what do you mean, what are we
We
doing?
gotta tell the people. Episode number
Oh, yeah.
corresponds.
Yeah. Well, you tell them, smarty pants.
Episode 91. We do our episode number that correlates with the best USA sports players that wore the number, same as our episode number. So, Dad, 91. Which one?
91. Well,
And
the
these
only
are
one.
not all U.S., actually, but they play in the
They played
Yeah,
in the
we're
U.S.
talking about
Yeah.
players that
Yeah.
play for a sport in America. I don't know of any in football. I don't recall. Dennis Rodman may have worn 91 at some point because he's
A
just
worm.
weird. And then, but
That's a
then
good.
hockey, there was one for the Red Wings that I remember. A star.
Sergei Fedorov.
Yeah, that's
Who
it.
Jim Nill, we talked the other week about the great young guy, Alexander Mogilny,
Yeah.
and that he was on the Russian national team and whatnot, and he came over, he got drafted and he came. But Fedorov was the first true defector. And
Yeah.
Jim Nill, Stars general manager, was Detroit's general manager
At the
then.
time.
And
Mhm.
when Fedorov came, they all came following.
Interesting.
And boy, the Red Wings were full of Russians, and their uniform was red, which was the color of the great Red Army hockey teams.
Yeah.
And they'd come out there with five
Yeah.
five guys on the ice at one time, wearing all from Russia wearing red. And I remember in my goal judging days, and I'm watching Fedorov out there, and I'm saying, is he even better than Gretzky?
He was good.
He was a player. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Sammy, who are the others?
All right, starting with football. Kevin Green. Any light
Yeah.
bulbs pop up?
Kevin Green played for the Packers.
I think so. I didn't have enough time to put their team.
Yeah.
Um, Kevin Green, linebacker, defensive end. Doesn't say the team, but he was
Yeah, he
five
played
times
more
Pro
than one
Bowler.
team.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then Tommy Harris,
Yeah.
for the Bears.
Don't
You don't know
remember.
him? Okay.
Must be old.
Fletcher Cox,
Yeah.
Eagles. I think he's retired
He
now.
played for the Rams too, Fletcher.
Yeah.
No. That's somebody else. London Fletcher, I'm thinking of.
Okay. And
Yeah.
then Ed Oliver. That's a
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
You know
Okay.
him.
Yeah.
And then Leroy Glover.
Leroy Glover.
Leroy, 6-time Pro Bowler. And then we switched to the NHL, which is going to be fun because I can say this one. Steven Stamkos.
Okay.
Florida.
Yeah.
Drafted.
Tampa Bay Lightning, too, captain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and 2 cups with them, and One of the great ones.
And then I think this, our Dallas owned Tyler Seguin,
Sagan.
There you go.
John Tavares,
Yeah.
Sergey Fedorov,
Yeah.
Vladimir Tarasenko,
Yeah.
Sanko.
Very good.
and Evgeny Kuznetsov.
Yevgeny.
Evgeny Kuznetsov.
We'll take it, Sam. Very
Yeah?
good.
We'll
Yeah,
take it.
there were more than hockey than I thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of hockey on
I
this
wish
one.
I wish he was on the screen right now to see the smile on that young
Yeah.
man's face.
That's too funny. So there you have it, the number 91s. So we have a part of our show where we like to we call them Tarnations, which is the old euphemism that Mr. What was his name?
Jed Clampett.
Clampett on the Hillbillies. If you're young and haven't heard of that, you ought to watch one. It's a 30-minute show. Hillbillies that moved to Beverly Hills, the Beverly Hillbillies, and he used to say, "What in the tarnation's going on?" So our tarnations for me this week are an Illinois TV anchor for a station up there has been fired, or no, she was suspended because she had something. She worked for Charlie Kirk at one point, and she used just seconds of her segment or her show, one of her shows, one of these shows, news shows, and made reference to Charlie Kirk. She was suspended by the station for doing it, and then she said, "Well, based on that, that's not a place I want to work." So she resigned, and I find that kind of insane.
We could do a whole show on those.
Yeah, we
happenings.
could. Ohio candidate for attorney general came out and was just awful about Charlie Kirk, and we're going to talk about more about this. But I still find it. We're going to talk about some things that are more in the news relative to that than these one-offs. But there are more and more of them popping up where people just can't keep their mouth shut about a man who was tragically murdered. Another Tarnation, Cash Patel, is in a hearing today. If you get a chance to YouTube any segment, you'll see just how unfazed those on the left are from continuing their old shtick about just creating division and hammering people. It's ridiculous. And then not necessarily a Tarnation, but another update is that Robert Redford passed away today at age 89, which is a long life. And Robert Redford,
a man's man.
he was a man's man. He was an actor like nobody, and just a handsome fella. Just pretty quiet guy. Never really got too into the mainstream of America. But he was in a ton of shows. Jeff and I looked up some of them. Some of the big hits that most people are aware of. The Natural probably is the biggest one. But you had Sting.
Which is, it describes him.
Yeah, I
he was a natural in the role.
That was a baseball movie. It was as I mentioned to Jeff, it was filmed in Buffalo, particularly the big scenes where he hits a home run and all that was filmed in Buffalo. But he starred in The Sting. He starred in Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid with Paul Newman.
Who he also he
was
starred in The Sting with him too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
What
a combo.
Yeah, for sure. The Rangers got beat last night by Houston, which isn't good. Now Houston is up either 2 or 3 games because now we're talking about the Rangers in a race for the division title, not necessarily just for wild cards. So
and Houston has dropped down from division to wild card.
yeah,
Seattle's moved ahead of them.
Seattle won last night, so we're
10 or
chasing
11
Seattle.
Yeah.
But we got 2 more games with Houston tonight and tomorrow night, so we'll see how that goes. And then the Cowboys played the Giants on Sunday, and for those of you that saw it, which I would imagine is most of you, particularly in the Metroplex region, the Giants look good, frankly. And Sammy was over watching. He and his girlfriend were over watching it with us, and Russell. I said to Sammy, because we were talking about how well Russell was playing. And Russell had more yards in that game Sunday than he's ever had in his career.
450.
Over 450, yeah. But I said to Sammy in the fourth quarter, I said, we were talking about Russell. And I said, looks like you're going to have another $10 because I owe Sammy $10 for every game that Russell Wilson starts for the Giants. Sammy owes me $10 for every game that Jackson Dart starts for them. Sammy's up, if he plays this coming Sunday, which he will, be $30. But I said to Sammy, on the couch, I said, the real Russell Wilson is about to show up. And what did he do?
He threw a bomb straight to Donovan Wilson.
Who doesn't play for the Giants. And the Cowboys used it to come back and kick a field goal.
And ironically, he had thrown three or four, maybe five other great long
Oh yeah.
passes, and uh, we beat the crowd, and we were listening to Babe Laufenberg
Hmm.
and Brad Sham giving the commentary, and they were talking about how nobody throws the long pass better than Russell, and referencing the long passes but they said that thing was kind of a balloon, and I did not get a. Did you ever see a replay? Did anything impede his throw?
No, well, I think he was under pressure. I mean, it
Okay.
depends on what you mean by impede, but he wasn't hit at the same time. He was under pressure and he just lofted it and wasn't even close to the receiver. And our guy caught it. The receiver tried to knock it out of his hands, but caught it. I mean, it was more thrown down the middle of the field as
Mm-hmm.
opposed.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led to the drive where the Cowboys came back and won
Mm-hmm.
on what's this Aubrey's kick. I mean, Aubrey, is he not the smoothest dude in the NFL? I mean, nothing
It
phases
does
that dude.
it doesn't look like he's trying to muscle the ball ever. He's so smooth. His background is interesting. He played some pro soccer. He played soccer for Notre Dame in college,
Yeah.
and he was on the couch. Babe was giving us the story. He was on the couch and he was watching the game with his wife, and somebody jumped a kick, and he said, "Well, I can hit that kick better than he can." And the wife says,
So do it.
"Well, do it."
He
And
did it.
he went out to a local field that afternoon and started kicking.
Well, he's best field goal kicker in the league, if you ask me, by
49 out of
far.
50 at home.
Chuck says Dallas when he scored 50 points a game because their defense stinks. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Russell Wilson making long uh completions. And I mean, one of them was with less than a minute to go, less than 40 seconds to go. And dude, I mean, it was a beautiful pass, but it was a 40 or 50-yard bomb. I don't know I was texting my buddy up in Buffalo at the same time, and I'm like, what is going on here? And Elam, who is one of
Mm.
our defensive backs who couldn't catch a cold or couldn't cover a bed, as they might say, was Buffalo's number one pick years ago. And I mean, not once, but twice in that game on Sunday, we got beat on long passes
Uh,
at critical times.
The analysis that I heard, and I think it's consistent with what I saw from upstairs, you can see things a little differently than
Hmm.
on the screen. And playing the zone defense instead of man to man, the corners would kind of let off because they thought there was a safety coverage behind them, and the
Hmm.
coverage wasn't there. And if they were playing man, that might have made a big difference. And so I think you might see a different scheme
Yeah,
coming up.
well, we need to. But when you're up by 4 with less than 40 seconds to go in the game and you're on defense, you can't get beat. I
Nope.
don't care who you are. Now, I'm not an armchair quarterback. I loved
Since when?
Well, I mean, seriously, I don't sit here and say you should have done this, should have done that. I'm just saying we can't. I mean, I'm using what my wife, who's not a football aficionado by any stretch, would say. How can we get beat on a play like that? I mean, so I'm not talking about being an armchair quarterback. I'm just saying how do we do that? I mean, how does that happen? And so I just don't get it. But Chuck's right. If that's the way we're going to approach things from a defensive side, and the Giants scored 40 points or 37 points on us, God help us. I mean, we play Chicago this Sunday, and I mean Chicago's 0-2.
Yeah, Bears.
But and we play up there. I'm telling you, we could have very easily lost this game this past Sunday and be 0-2. And you get 0-2, 0-3, and maybe 0-4, and the season's lost.
Good thing we're getting our Soldiers Field game early instead of frigid.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, no doubt about that for sure. So let's get into
I
it.
got one more turn. I got a
Yeah,
Tarnation also. I'm looking at the sports section this morning. There's a feature, not on the front, but below on the baseball page about what a spoiler the Athletics have been all year long.
yeah.
And I'm going, well, let me go see how they're doing in the standings. And I do a scan. I don't see Oakland. I go to National League. I don't see Oakland. I scan it again. And
They're not called that. Yeah,
they're called the Athletics.
yeah,
And they're the only team in baseball that doesn't have their geographic name.
yeah.
So, they're going to Oakland.
No,
And
Raiders,
they're going
Vegas.
to Vegas. And right now they're playing in Sacramento, which is 81 miles from Oakland,
Mhm.
in a minor league park called Sutter Park. It holds 14,000 people, 2,400 of which are lawn seats in the outfield.
Mhm.
And I got thinking about when Vegas got the Golden Knights in 2017, and then they got the Raiders, and now they're going to have baseball, and they're keeping the Athletics name, thankfully.
Mhm.
So now in 11 years, Vegas is going from no major sports to all three, and they're all in magnificent new stadiums.
Well,
It's a tribute to
I
Las
don't think
Vegas.
it'll be long before they have an NBA franchise. They got a WNBA
Yeah.
franchise there. But yeah, I mean, the Washington, when it changed its logo, went with the Washington Football Club, I think. I believe there was another one that had that kind of transition that changed their name either a little or a lot. But yeah, the Athletics are just called the Athletics. And in COVID, the Buffalo is an hour and a half south of Toronto. The Toronto Blue Jays uh, moved to Buffalo and played in Buffalo's AAA stadium, which is their AAA
Hmm.
team, Buffalo Bisons. So it was nice for the people of Buffalo to have
Yeah.
a major league team playing in their city. So last week, we all know by now, unless you're just been asleep at the wheel for a week, last Wednesday afternoon, both local time in Utah and here in Texas, 1:20 to be exact, Charlie Kirk was murdered, assassinated, killed in cold blood. All of those things are true by a young man who has now been caught. His name is, well, I don't even want to say his name, but he's a 22-year-old kid. Obviously, got issues in his life. He was living with a transgendered male, which means he was going from no transgender female, going from biological man to wanting to be a female. Uh, so you can imagine those conversations around whatever the gaming system, not the kitchen table, not the coffee table, but the gaming system, because I think that's particularly this guy that killed Charlie was a big time gamer. So the FBI caught the guy within 33 hours, which is an incredible uh, fast response to what was horrific. And this is a murder that took place on live TV for all of us to see. You can't really go to any social media right now without it being right there in your face, which for me, it keeps the anger and the sadness and the shock alive. And it's almost me saying to myself, I still can't believe this is true. Every time I look at Facebook, which isn't all that much anymore, uh, I but every time I do, I see a clip there, and if I click play, then it'll show the whole thing, and I still can't believe uh, what's happened. And but since then, so much has happened in the 6 days. In our content on, we have Substack, which is Substack.com, which is where a lot of authors and columnists in America go to post their content. We have the same thing under Grit and Good News. So if you go to Substack.com and search Grit and Good News, you'll find an opportunity to subscribe for $5 a month. And when you do, every Monday morning and every Friday morning, you get what I just might call a boatload of content that's written by uh, Jeff and me, and then Sammy is responsible for other links that we think our readers and our followers will find interesting. And so this week, we are writing about Charlie, and really, what would Charlie say if he knew that last Wednesday, September the 10th, was his last day? And he was going to pen a letter to people, what would he say? And so Jeff and I, in our own unique ways, are taking a stab at that. But it's hard for me to really still understand how all this can happen. Uh, Greater yet is the total unfathomable act that we now are witnessing of people going on public social media platforms or any platforms they can find and berating, degrading, belittling, demeaning, criticizing, making fun of, you name it, Charlie Kirk, and that his death makes them happy and they rejoice with it, and that he should have seen it coming. He caused it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to understand why anybody would do that. Now, you and I, we're natural. All three of us and everybody watching has people in our lives that we don't like. Uh, Hate is a relative term. Hate can be determined by the things we do and say about another person. So if you don't say much, then people aren't going to know to what degree you might feel about another person. And so with people that I have struggles with, I try not, well, I don't, and I'm nothing special. I'm just an ordinary average person, but we don't sit on this show and talk about people we might dislike or hate. We make, we talk about politicians that we dislike and their behaviors, but they need to be called out. But in terms of our hatred for other people that would lead to such an act, why, if you feel like that was justified, why do you feel the need to tell people that you feel it's justified? And my point of us keeping it to ourselves, I don't know who Jeff might, if there's anybody in your life that you hate. I don't even know people in your life that you dislike because you don't talk about it. I don't know Sammy. Sammy doesn't, we're father and son. We don't sit around and talk about people we dislike. We don't hate anybody, but if I did, I wouldn't talk about it. And I especially wouldn't talk about it publicly. And I especially wouldn't make fun of it or degrade it or, I mean, but yet that's going on everywhere, and I just don't understand quite why.
Well, and here's the thing. Take this event aside. Take all the different things that you see people write, and you say, you know, you've you've put that down publicly in for history, and people can always associate you with those comments. Why would you want to share those? Why do you feel compelled to share those? Because you will have a portion of people go, right on, I feel the same. And you're going to have a portion of people go, I cannot believe anybody thinks that way. But what we have to caution ourselves with, because there's a lot of chatter right now about um, if you hear somebody saying anything negative, call them out in person to them and call them out to their boss. And we have people who are losing their jobs for saying things. And the the problem with that is it's a return to the McCarthyism era of the 50s when everybody was calling everybody a communist and blaming them for things, and people were afraid to say anything. And you have to remember this: Charlie always wanted to hear the other side. That's why he had people up to debate regularly.
Mhm.
So I think we're treading a very thin line if we start to tell people that they can't say things and to have people lose jobs over things that they say. That's not really what freedom of speech is like, and I don't think that Charlie would approve of that. Charlie would say what you want, but you know what I'd really like you to do? I'd really like you to come to one of my events and let me debate you about whatever subject you want to
Yeah.
debate me on, and it's a slippery slope that we're on.
Yeah, it is a slippery slope. Charlie himself and many others throughout life have said, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's silence. It's robbing people of the ability to communicate. So it's telling people that they have to be silent for whatever reason that often leads to violence.
Right.
And so, Charlie, I've seen some people say, well, those that are happy, supposedly that he was killed, that that he had it coming to him. And my question to them is, what did he ever?
Right.
And so people will say, well, he was hate speech. Well, there's a difference between people hate speech and defining something that someone said as hateful. And I think Charlie's way of making a difference in America and in life fits into the latter, and that is that people heard him say uh, things like marriage between a man and a woman, which means that is right, is the only way. People, so either he would then follow that up by saying, when questioned, is homosexuality wrong? He would say yes. Is abortion wrong? Yes. Is any number of things wrong? Yes. Uh, they would equate that to some form of fascism or Nazism or lack of free speech or whatever. And so they would develop hatred of how they interpreted what Charlie said, when in fact Charlie wasn't speaking hate. He wasn't hate speech. And so there is the difference. So when I hear people say, and they're politicians, there are lay people out there saying, well, he was fascist, he was Nazi, he was a communist, he was hate speech. And the truth is, he wasn't. He, of all people, even last Wednesday, if you watch the very beginning of that event, and he said it at more than just that event, but he would say, I want, I'm paraphrasing, but I want all the liberals to come up, get in front of the line, because I want to hear what you have to say. And so they would say to him what they had to say. And in some cases, they were brutal. I mean, they were nasty. They were mean spirited. Uh, they talked to Charlie totally different than he would talk to them. Now, Charlie didn't mind, you know, a good verbal battle, and
He
he could get
thrived on it.
he would, yeah, he did, and he was good at it. I mean, he knew his stuff, and he was sarcastic at times. But when you're going to get into a debate, you got to be willing to accept that. But Charlie rarely, if ever, I haven't seen a clip. If somebody has, send it to us, of Charlie saying to somebody that you're worthless, that you're a piece of this, or you're a piece of that, or you're dumb, you're stupid. Whatever. Never said those things. And Charlie did far more than just his campus events. As I mentioned earlier, when we were prepping or getting ready for the show, Charlie had a 3-hour daily talk show 5 days a week. We do our 1-hour show twice a week, and we know what work is involved. Imagine it being a 3-hour every day, like Rush used to do. And so these people, sorry, Terry, thank you for being here, bud. And Chuck made reference to Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica. Her video the other night was extremely powerful. But these people who are now coming back and saying such bad things about Charlie, I think in part, maybe that in their way of managing their own guilt helps them. If you paint somebody as a demon, then your atrocious behaviors and things you say and acts toward them, it helps you justify that. And because Charlie wasn't there was nothing evil or atrocious about Charlie Kirk. He was what America needs. What were you gonna say, Sam?
I was gonna say, a lot of stuff, or this, I guess, this one quote floating around social media that he said a while back. They're using it against him and his family, and I just want to read it real quick, just for some context. He said, "I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights." And so I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
I've had people DM me this after stuff that I posted, saying that why would I support, that? Um, so I just wanted to put that out there
And they're
because
saying that they're
that he
interpreting
deserves
that
it.
as that he advocated people having guns and that they should use them if they or if necessary.
Well, I think they're just pulling the
I
vague.
think he's saying that having deaths from guns
Is inevitable.
is the price you pay to
The
have
Second
the
Amendment.
And
freedom
they're
of
saying
having
that he
guns.
paid that price.
Yeah, well, he did pay that price, and but never, none of us that I know of, no one in my sphere of influence that I'm aware of, espouses using a gun for any other reason than hunting, which I'm not a hunter, but hunting, defending, and protecting your family and yourself, and your property. Uh, and some people do it for sport. I mean, I don't mind telling people that I'm trying to use part of my time going forward to learn how to use a gun, largely because I don't want to ever have to use it. But in case I do, I will know how. But I also think it'll be fun to go out with, in a controlled area with targets and that sort of thing, as a hobby, and have some fun doing that. It's not something I've done in my life, other than when I was a teenager, young teenager, going out in the woods with a 410 and shooting whatever. Mostly, I shot leaves that I thought were things moving around. Uh, so the idea that Charlie Kirk would the idea with the Second Amendment is that we are going to have those things that happen that make us in and of themselves isolated, would say, well, why do we don't need guns. If we looked at Charlie's death, if we looked at Sandy Hook, if we looked at the Minnesota killings recently, if and we could very easily say to ourselves, if we just looked at those standalone, Columbine, if we just looked at those standalone, we could say we just don't need guns. But we're not looking at those in an isolated example. We're looking at those in the totality of living life. And the Second Amendment is necessary. Charlie, a lot of clips have been playing, Sammy, in response to what you also said. And I've seen it many times. It's the same clip, but Charlie is explaining to a group of people at an event that the Second Amendment wasn't created at the time it was created for uh, the things that people are saying it was created for, like uh, killing somebody coming into your home. Although it is for that, it wasn't created because of that. It was created at a time when there was real threat of the government becoming tyrannical, and that the Second Amendment is to protect yourself from the government. And Charlie Kirk said that numerous times, that look, just understand what the Second Amendment was created for and about, and that is to protect yourself from an out of control government.
And the colonists had to have that in order to overthrow
Yeah,
the British.
yeah. So I mean, Charlie Kirk again he sat in front of last Wednesday, just like all his other events, because most of them were done outside. He sat in front of 3,000 students, and one that blended in from 4 hours away, albeit, uh, took his life in a horrific way. And I would Charlie, if let's assume that shot, like with Trump, thank goodness, just nicked his ear, or let's say shot Charlie in the arm, or got him somewhere that he could still continue.
Right.
Would he stop? Is there anybody in this room or watching believes Charlie Kirk would stop doing what he was doing because he was shot? I doubt it.
No more than Trump did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he dealt every single day with death. So he knew going into it. He did not care, and
yeah,
I know he would still do it.
yeah. He definitely would still do it.
And,
So
and but back to being open to discussion, and Charlie would want that. Part of why he loved the debate is he knew he had the upper hand. Sam, would you say it'd be a fair statement if you looked at all the different people who come up and ask questions? 90% of them deal with less than 20 topics.
Yeah,
Okay. So now you got 20 topics, and you've heard people ask these questions 50, 100 times. Okay. And you can ask a question, you can talk about a topic, and you can give a few different angles. There's only so many different ways they're going to come at you.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So Charlie is ready for any topic, and he's got the guy starts his question, he's got his answer before he even
yeah.
starts it. So
It's a good point.
and he's experienced, he's calm. And people get up there on a mic and they're petrified, and they stumble through their question, and then Charlie says something, and they blurt out a reply, and they're overpowered in that debate. And so he relished it.
Yeah, and they interpret that as Charlie's a bad guy, the mean guy, and it's not ever fun. I don't like gotcha situations. Charlie didn't play gotcha. He just wanted to educate people, and he did. He knew his stuff largely because he was constantly answering the same questions. In addition, he was also a learned man and an intelligent guy, and yet uh, when somebody gets you, not intentionally, but because they understand the subject better than you do, or you're relying on sound bites, or you're relying on what you read peripherally online, Charlie's gonna give you the truth, and some people interpret that as Charlie being a mean guy that hurt people's feelings and so on and so forth. I think this killer actually, because of his relationship with a transgender person, saw Charlie eat up others verbally who tried to say all kinds of things about the value of transgender in children or adults. And Charlie set the record straight that this killer and his sidekick believed that Charlie was super demeaning and belittling to them. And that wasn't Charlie's. Charlie never used any notes. He showed up. If you saw him last Wednesday, prior to that, he was what, throwing hats out to people. He then went around and sat down in his customary seat there and under a tent. And all he ever had was his mind and his desire to answer questions, and somebody took his life. Last thing I want to say about this part is that the people who, if we had somebody at the Waxahachie Sun or any of our platforms that went on any platform, I don't care, and took joy or made fun of or espoused the murder of Charlie Kirk, I'd fire him in a heartbeat. We're just not going to accept that, and it would be the same if it was somebody I didn't like. But no one in our company is going to stand on somebody's grave, as it were, and make fun of them. It's just not acceptable. So everybody that's being fired, in my opinion, whether it's academia or in the media or wherever, in everyday Burger King, I don't care. If you are happy and you're telling people about it that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, then you should be fired. Uh, just the way I see it. Um, if we all look back to May of 2020, we remember May of 2020 for two reasons. One of which was that COVID had just been put into or placed into the laps of people and their all across the world in March of 2020 is when all the things started happening just prior to spring break for school. That's how I remember. Uh, but the other thing that happened in May of that year was that George Floyd was killed. Uh, and as we recall back to that, George Floyd's murder led to statues of George Floyd, led to uh, murals of George Floyd. It led to all kinds of things relative to George Floyd. And again, I'm not here to, I just said I wouldn't be standing and jumping on somebody's grave, but there's enough facts to know that George Floyd wasn't a choir boy. I mean, he had some demons in his life, and everyone who has demons in their life ought to be given a chance to purge those demons. But we're talking about two different types of people here. It has nothing to do with skin color. As far as I'm concerned, it has everything to do with the way of life and how we are so quick in America, particularly those on the left, are so quick in America to idolize somebody they know very little about because they're trying to make a bigger case than about that person. So when the left in these left cities, blue cities, came out and started making an icon out of George Floyd, it wasn't so much they knew George Floyd, it was that they wanted to spread their doctrine, their belief system. And but we had a number, lots of cities, states, the country, entities, organizations, so on and so forth that celebrated the life of George Floyd. Uh, one of those cities was Minneapolis. Minneapolis is where George Floyd was killed. Again, I doubt that Tim Walz at the time or any of those other people in the government in any even in the specific area where George Floyd lived, I doubt that any of those in politics knew who George Floyd was. They just knew that a guy in their area was killed by a cop and he shouldn't have died and it was wrong and so on and so forth. And they saw it as an opportunity to make hay of it. So they celebrated it. The Vikings celebrated, honored uh, George Floyd. So we get to 2025, Charlie Kirk is assassinated again, in my opinion, much like Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was, for those of you that don't know, in 1968, April of 1968, I believe it was April the 8th to be specific, in Memphis, Tennessee, was on the balcony of a hotel with people, his entourage, uh, and a guy shot him from a distance, just like with Charlie Kirk. shot Martin Luther King in the jaw, and it killed Martin Luther King. Again, in very similar circumstances to Charlie Kirk. And the reason was that Martin Luther King espoused things that no one prior to him had really done as effectively. Uh, and he espoused many things that Charlie Kirk espouses. That is God, Christianity, honesty, truthfulness, all those integrity, character, all those things. Matter of fact, it was Martin Luther King who said that you don't define a man by his color, you define him by his character. So that was Martin Luther King, and some moron, maniac, whatever. Oh, I'm not supposed to use those words, but some bozo took him out and killed him. Same way it happened with Charlie Kirk. So we have these. We have some churches, we have some teams like the Cowboys. They honored Charlie Kirk. You were there.
Yeah, did you see Terry's comment?
Did you see the video memorial they displayed?
Did you see
Jeff
that
was at the
message with the
game.
picture?
Yeah. So,
I'll
yeah,
pull
the
up.
Cowboys and many other sports teams, churches, cities, you name it, are recognizing the life of Charlie Kirk as a result of his death. There are 5 NFL teams that didn't. I'll tell you who they are. Thanks for asking.
I was just gonna say, I think one of them is the Ravens.
The Ravens,
Yeah.
the Lions, the Colts, the Bengals, and believe it or not, the Vikings. So
I believe it.
So in 2020, the Vikings recognized and honored George Floyd. 5 years later, they refused to recognize the death of Charlie Kirk. Frankly, I find that abhorrent. It's their decision to make, but I find it abhorrent because uh, that's playing politics, in my opinion. That's playing politics with life. And I don't know what the reasoning is for the other 4, but there is no reason valid enough, in my opinion, to be acceptable. I did ask 2 council people in Waxahachie because other cities, and I'd sent them a picture of a billboard. Other cities are simply just putting up the iconic picture of Charlie and his comments that are spiritual in nature. And as a way of honoring him, I asked them to introduce the idea of doing the same here in Waxahachie. And one of them was in favor of it. I'm going to keep them nameless for now. The other one wasn't. And the one that wasn't was playing, in my opinion, it was playing it from a political viewpoint. And it has nothing to do with politics. It has everything to do with life and quality of life and reason for life. So your thoughts on whether or not, your thoughts on one, the George Floyd versus Charlie Kirk and the Vikings, and then whether or not it makes sense and is good for a city like Waxahachie to recognize Charlie Kirk.
Well, I take that on a little broader basis and say this, that I was touched. I guess it was the day after the assassination, um, when I think it was his wife, somebody else put up showing pictures of, um, here's what happened after George Floyd was killed. And yes, there were tributes, but but the rioting
Yeah.
that nearly destroyed Portland, it had a
And
terrible
Seattle and Minneapolis.
terrible in Minneapolis. And so the contrast between that and having vigils is uh, how do we deal with this, and what good do we think can come from destroying and burning and looting and further violence? How ticky tacky is that?
Well, let's boil it down. So you have fires and looting, and there were killings
Yeah.
as well. So when we boil that down, I'll give you a multiple choice. Is the difference that we saw, that destruction, and what we're seeing now, which are vigils and tributes. Sammy is going to one tomorrow night in Midlothian, so I honor Midlothian, or not honor. I
Applaud.
applaud and appreciate Midlothian for what they're doing. That is to recognize Charlie Kirk in a public setting. So we have that contrast. Is that contrast built on or based on, there's a multiple question part, multiple answers, racism, politics, spirituality, which is kind of the same as good versus evil. So those are your three options. There may be more, but those are the three.
I can't put D, ignorance.
Okay, you can put D, ignorance. So ignorance is, I don't, yeah, I mean, you could say ignorance. You're doing
It's
something
ignorant
purposefully.
to act that way.
Yeah, you're doing something purposefully. So you're not ignorant. You're fully aware that you're going to go out and loot and burn. So you're not ignorant. We can define it as being an ignorant act, but it's not born of ignorance. It's born of either follow a leader or I'm just ticked that I don't have a good job and I'm struggling or whatever. But if we had to nail it down, what is the difference? Because of racism, that is black versus white? Is it because of politics, left versus right? Or is it between good and evil, this contrast? What we're seeing now versus what we saw in 2024, in your opinion?
Well, I think the good and evil can be a subset of the politics. I think it's the politics of the times, and in our political climate in our country has gotten so black and white, it is absolutely ridiculous. There's no middle ground, and um, the days of having an independent candidate are gone.
Yeah.
I gave Ross Perot my vote twice in the '90s. I gave one to Ralph Nader. I gave one to Kinky Freeman for governor. I mean, I think I've given the independents my support, but there is no independent voice at all anymore.
Yeah.
It's all liberal or all conservative. And this is a broken record to things I've said before. But when when the election happened and Trump won, the liberals took it hard, and they're taking it harder and harder and harder, and their reaction has gotten stronger and stronger and stronger. And it was easy to often talk about how they would automatically, on any issue, it wasn't the issue, it was the whatever Trump wants, we don't want.
Yeah.
And that's gone further and further. So you can take that, you can put it into the evil part, and in the racism, I'm gonna throw that part aside. I'm gonna give give a skip on that. So I think it's politics in the evil.
Sammy, what do you think? The good and evil racism or politics? That the difference between the response to George Floyd with destruction, fire, looting.
Well, I'll say this: the George Floyd, I think it was black or white on black
Yeah.
racism.
Yeah.
White cop killed um, a black guy, but now I don't really know. I don't.
Well, when you compare the two or contrast the two, for me, it's hi Beverly. Thank you for being here nonetheless. We appreciate it. It's, I think it really boils down to, I think Jeff, both of y'all are right on the spot, because it's not a succinct answer to the question. But the good and evil, which is, I think the root of our problems in America rest in D.C., Washington, D.C., and by extension, the capitals in each of our states. I believe that it's stoked. What we're seeing is stoked by and created by, particularly Washington D.C. And so what we have now are just politicians who are not very smart. They won an election. Any old creep can win an election, and I've got proof of that. Uh, a number of examples. But if you got money and you got enough muscle, monetary muscle, and some name recognition, you can get there. But it's all stoked by this left versus right, politically speaking, which is also a kind of the, the a part of good versus evil, as you said, Jeff. And so right now we have people who Charlie Kirk would do anything for, my guess is. My guess is that any of those people who got up in front of him and just berated him and made fun of him and whatever, if they needed something from him, if he saw it an opportunity to communicate with them and convert them and help them, he would do it. And yet he died. And there's only one Jesus in life, in the world, in history, in eternity. I think Charlie Kirk at 31 years old, Jesus was 33. Charlie Kirk's would have been 32 next month, October the 14th. I think there are some great similarities there in terms of just how they lived life on this earth.
Hmm.
Um, last thing I'll say on this morning before I came over, I was watching Cash Patel, who's in front of a Senate committee this morning, and listened to people like Booker just go on and on about how bad the FBI is and Cash Patel is and Trump is. I'm thinking, this dude hasn't learned a dang thing. There's
Right.
nothing. Uh, Booker, and for many people on the left, and I know people on the left that I clump in with general statements, don't like it, but I'm sorry. But the left is moored like a boat is to a dock. The left is moored to ways of creating division. It's how they believe they grow their party. There's nothing unifying about the left, period. And if you and like with anybody else, if you want to come and sit in here and debate it with me, I'm happy to give you that time and space. So I just the left isn't going to change
Right.
whatsoever, in my opinion.
Regarding Terry's comment, Sam, you got that picture that I sent you of. I took this picture at AT&T Stadium for the game, and they put up what you're seeing right there. And let's have a moment of silence. And I'm telling you what, you could hear a pin
Yeah,
drop, and it wasn't 10 seconds. It was a quite an extended stoppage and or
yeah.
recognition. And I'll tell you what, you want to talk about racial breakdown within a group. If you think that's 100% white crowd, you got another
Yeah, no,
thing coming. There's a ton of black people there.
yeah.
There are a ton of Hispanic people. People of all races are there, and it was the way it should
Well,
be.
come Thursday, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. What has the death of Charlie Kirk now created, both for Turning Point USA and for uh, both the left and the right? And so we'll talk more about those specifics come Thursday. But there you have it. We have some things about Jasmine Crockett, but we don't have time, so we'll be talking about those at a later date.
We
Uh,
put her off
just
twice now, but we're gonna
just
get to
suffice
her.
it to say that Jasmine, if you're watching, which I doubt you are, we still got you on the agenda here, and we're going to make sure people know about you. All right, what do you have for rhyme time
I
this week?
struggled to find something. I'm running out of things that I haven't done at least once, and I did this once around New Year's Eve. But let me ask you, how are we doing on our New Year's resolutions here in September, 3/4 of the way through the
I
year?
don't even know what mine were.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got to have some realistic resolutions.
Well, we got on December 29th of 2021. We wrote about resolution revolution.
Yeah, there you go.
Resolution Revolution, it's a whole new thing. It's about care filled solutions. Let's give it a fling. We can't just say, I'll give up this or give up that. Let's simply show respect. That's how we ought to act. This isn't really a complicated fact. An anonymous wise man once did say, a little bit of kindness goes a long
Way.
way. Yes, of course, lose that weight, but truly focus on living without
Hey,
hate. Evil or malice will have you acting like a fool. How about living the golden rule?
yeah, there you go. Good one.
There you
Very
go.
good. Um, to that living without hate. How do people that are jumping up and down on Charlie's grave, um, in essence, how do they feel about it? It's like that rapper, a black rapper who Jesse Waters had him on last night, or Gutfeld did, one of the two, just talking. This dude was calling it Charlie every vulgar name in the book, and was just ripping him to pieces. And I'm thinking, that guy, that show's over, and that guy goes home. How do you feel good about yourself? How do you feel about yourself? It just blows my mind.
Um, I know we have our day in history, but I have my thoughts today.
Okay, yeah.
They're
Sorry about
they're
that.
not
Yep.
random. This is for Charlie. I'm doing 5 of some of my most favorite quotes that Charlie said.
Cool.
So I'll get through it really quick. If you believe in something, you need to have the courage to fight for those ideas, not run away from them or try to silence them. When you deliberately distort and selectively present the truth, you lie.
Yes.
When people stop talking, that's when you get violence.
Right.
That's when civil war happens
Mhm.
because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity. The worst thing you can do after evil has been committed is to commit more evil.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's all about Jesus.
Yes.
So
That's
Amen.
it.
Amen. All right.
we had a brutal day today in history. I limped to a 3-4 record. I opened the gate 0-2. $5 bills waiting here for either one of you to do better than 3-4 today.
Okay.
Here we go. Today in history. Catholic priest Miguel Hidalgo Castillo called on his parishioners to join him in a rebellion against Spanish rule, marking the beginning of the Mexican War of Independence.
1908.
1760.
1810. The largest land run in U.S. history occurred as more than 100,000 white settlers rushed to claim more than 6 million acres of land in what is now northern Oklahoma.
Wow.
Oklahoma land rush.
1864.
Oh, I was going to go 1851.
1893. You guys are also 0-2. Here we go. General Motors was founded in Flint, Michigan by William C. Durant. Of course, we have a Durant Chevrolet in town, and
Mhm.
don't think that that's not a descendant of him. Durant Chevrolet. General Motors founded in Flint, Michigan.
1949.
1958.
1908.
That's what I said. Three things ago.
Samuel T. Rayburn of Texas was first elected Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. He would hold the post for 17 years, spanning 3 separate terms. That is really special.
1913.
1961.
1940,
I'm a offer.
I'm 04 right
the
now.
Metropolitan Opera officially opened its new opera house in New York's Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts with a world premiere of Samuel Barber's Antony and Cleopatra.
1953.
1981.
1966.
Oh.
Here you go. O.J. Simpson, the Juice, the superstar in Rent-A-Car, was arrested in the alleged armed robbery of sports memorabilia collectors in Las Vegas. Simpson was later convicted of kidnapping and armed robbery and sentenced to 9 to 33 years of prison. He was released in 2017. But when was he arrested for this? Do you remember this
Yeah.
scandal?
Well, I know who he is. I
Yeah.
don't. If I remember it,
The
I'd say.
superstar.
2012.
I was gonna say 1989.
2007.
Oh, I got one.
I
Okay.
thought he wasn't.
This is for a second. He was tried and acquitted in 1995.
That's
And
a.
he
And
was
then he
totally
did
broke.
and then he did
So
they
he was.
got him for a criminal a felony in 2007.
Yeah,
So he was.
of theft of memorabilia. It was his
The
memorabilia,
guy he
and he
said
said that
stole it,
it had been stolen, and now these people were selling it.
and he went to Vegas and to get it.
So he was innocent on the
Well, he
before
wasn't innocent, but he was found
innocent.
acquitted.
Yeah, and
Uh,
they gave him 9 to 33 years,
yeah,
and he was
he
arrested in 07, and they let
he
him
got
go in
out.
17. He was in the prison for a long time.
Yeah.
Here we go. And we close with at least 70 people were confirmed dead from Hurricane Florence as catastrophic flooding spread across the Carolinas.
When was Katrina?
2005.
I'm gonna say
Uh,
2014. I don't remember this.
2019.
18.
I've never heard of that hurricane.
Well, I was 2 and 5. Is that the last one?
Yeah.
That's brutal.
I went
Yeah.
0 and
That was a
whatever.
rough day.
All right.
My
Well,
fi-
before we close here, I got true facts that sound like BS. Let me see if y'all know this. True or false? The silhouette. Sammy should know this. silhouette on the NBA league logo is actually Michael Jordan.
It's not. It's
Well, is it true or false? Is it Michael Jordan, Jeff?
No, it's false. And
don't. No, God, I'm not gonna
I'll
remember it.
give you 10 bonus points if you get it right.
It's not Bob Cousy.
he just died. He just died.
I know
he-
Played
this.
for the Lakers.
Jerry West.
Very
Jerry
good,
we go.
West,
Sam.
yes, very good.
Sam did good today. You got
Yeah.
10 bonus
There's
points.
my $5.
Very good. Yeah, there you go. All right. Thank y'all for being here. We'll be back on Thursday. We're going to talk more about Charlie Kirk and a few other things, but we appreciate you being here, and it means the world to us. So,
And
Jeffrey,
I'm glad that we could end it on a high note after a tough day,
Yeah.
and that kind of goes with the way we close. Make it a great day and put a smile on somebody's face today.
amen.
Boom.